Hello, Orland Park. I'm Dan McMillan, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Orland Park TV. Tonight, we held a very special event here at Carl Sandburg High School, highlighting Senate Bill 16. And you're asking yourself, what is Senate Bill 16? Well, Senate Bill 16 is legislation that recently passed the Senate, the State Senate, and is headed for the State Assembly. Now, before it gets there, we wanted to get the opinions of everyone in the public, because Senate Bill 16 adversely, and I stress adversely, affects the funding of your local schools. We are looking at almost $25 million reduction in funding for our local schools, from District 130, or District 230, District 146, and District 135. Collectively, they could be displaced out of $25 million in funding on an annual basis. That's not just a one-time shot. So it's very important that you watch tonight's show and get in touch with your local representative, your local state senator, even your local mayor. So make them aware that you do not want to see Senate Bill 16 passed nowhere near its present form. Now, we're going to show you tonight the event, the program that was held. We're going to show parts of the program, the presentation, and then we're going to show you some very interesting interviews that will further explain Senate Bill 16. We have State Senator Bill Cunningham, State Representative Fran Hurley. We have District 135 President Joe Lamargo and District 146 Secretary Dean Casper. All of them will offer some very, very important insights to Senate Bill 16. Also give you some more information as to how you contact your state senator, such as Bill Cunningham, but other representatives. So please watch the show, get the information, and then please, the importance of tonight's show is that it will be the impetus to the springboard on to bigger and better things in terms of contacting your local representative. So sit back, get your information, take notes. Senate Bill 16, a presentation here from Carl Sandburg High School in Orland Park. I'm Dan McMillan, here for Orland Park TV and Orland Park's finest, Orland's finest. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I think it's important for us to learn about one of the most important issues confronting the state of Illinois, which is the fear and full funding of public education. And tonight and last night are really great examples of democracy in action. My comments tonight will focus on the impact of Senate Bill 16 on our districts, our partner districts. As Dr. Gay mentioned, 117, 118, 127, 135, 140, 146, and 230. And I'm also going to address the substantive defects in the legislation as well as the policy defects. And to my research, no one else in the state of Illinois has yet done that, because this bill has really not been subjected to a lot of critique and substantive analysis. District 230 and its partner school districts serve a large, diverse segment of our population. We go from 87th Street on the north to almost I-80 on the south, Willcook Road on the west to Ridgeland Avenue on the east. We serve 25,000 students. District 230 serves 8,000 high school students, and our partner districts serve about 15,000 elementary students, comprised of the communities of Hickory Hills, Worth, Palos Hills, Palos Heights, Palos Park, Orland Hills, and Tinley Park. The calculations for our 860 districts comprise 750 pages of single-space, tens of thousands of calculations with multiple variables that are again just made up from unsubstantiated formulas. And that's how we get to all the reallocations of state dollars based on these calculations done by our state board.
Hello, Orland Park. We're back. We're here in Orland Park tonight at Sandburg High School. an event that is very, very important to everyone that lives in Orland Park and around Orland Park. In fact, it's to talk about a Senate bill that affects the entire state. But the way it appears, from what I can see in the notes that I've looked at, is it affects this area, the Orland Park area, disproportionately from the rest of from so many other parts of the state. So tonight's event, very informative. We've got to continue the information that we're trying to make sure we get out to the community to help defeat this Senate Bill 16. So keep that on your mind, folks. Senate Bill 16, as they are also known as, and I looked it up, School Funding Reform Act of 2014. We have here a very distinguished gentleman, Mr. Dean Casper, who is Secretary of Consolidated School District 146. Did I get that right, Dean?
That is correct.
Well, Dean, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dan,
Thanks
for
for
the
taking.
opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thanks for taking your time out, coming out here after the event inside. I didn't get it. It appears there's a lot of concerned parents. So, Senate Bill 146. Can you just summarize it so that everyone out there knows what it means?
What it is it's a Robin Hood law. It takes from so-called wealthy districts and gives to so-called poor districts. But as the presentation cited, some of the districts that are winners are one of the most financially stable in the state, and some of the losers are some of the worst financially well-off districts. The problem with it doesn't add a penny to what the state is contributing to general education. So it's cutting down the districts that are actually stable and trying to move that money over into unstable and make everybody unstable. One of the other problems is there's no outcome-based results that are coming with this new money. The district that spends the most per pupil in the entire state is the Chicago Public School System. So just spending money doesn't equate success.
Yeah.
And there's no strings attached to this. There are districts that they could spend it any way that they want. So this doesn't solve the problem of having districts that are not succeeding versus ones that are. This is, again, punishing success.
Yes.
So punishing the successful districts for being viable. 135 has been a fiscal example of fiscal responsibility, as we have in 140. The hardest hit area in the entire state of Illinois is the southwest suburbs that make up Palos, Orland, Tinley. We are the hardest hit in the entire state with this bill. $24 million cumulatively will be out of, and it's not only starting in July, it's starting in July forever.
Yeah, it's because I had read somewhere where this could mean that tax rates could go up in some areas in here,
Well,
20%, and not just the first year. It could be 20% year after year, just to make up for the shortfall.
In 146's case, it's $1.8 million. In 135's case, it's $5 million. In 230's case, it's $7 million.
Yes, yeah, I've got it
So
here.
that money has to be made up somehow. You're either going to cut programs or raise taxes or some kind of combination.
Yes,
But then what are you going to cut?
Yeah.
Where do you cut? You're going to start cutting popular extracurricular activities?
Well, as hard as we've worked out here, we're all residents of Orland Park area, and we've come here because of the school districts, and we've worked hard to establish the community. And for political reasons, and I liked how you started it off, it's this Robin Hood mentality of just, it's basically, this is almost a socialistic bill, and they're taking from somebody who's working and saying, oh no, we want to move it over here, for really, I don't know, what do they try to justify the reasons behind this?
That those districts do not have the cash reserves or the tax base that we have here in Orland Park. Again, Orland Park is being punished for success.
Yeah.
The Palos, Orland, Tinley, folks move out here to have their kids come to these schools. They work very hard. The schools are the bedrock of any community. Now, if the schools start to go downhill, it's going to be Katie bar the door.
Yes.
Illinois is second worst in the country for fleeing of their population to other states.
Yes.
People don't run from prosperity.
No, no.
The answer here is to get economic growth, grow the base,
Yes.
not punish those that are doing well
Yeah.
to supplement those that aren't doing well.
Yes.
Every child in Illinois deserves a good education.
Yes.
But this isn't the way to do it.
No, and they're losing sight of one of the more important parts of an education, and that is really a strong parental base. And that's really, when you look at it, it's not, there's never been a strong correlation between,
No.
if we spend this much, as you said, the most money spent per capita per child is the Chicago Public Schools. And we all know the track record that Chicago Public Schools have had. So it's really what's behind it, and what drives the schools is really the parents. And so just taking this money and taking it away from here, from this area, moving it to another area, will, on its face, accomplish nothing other than could devastate the property values in Orland Park.
The other districts won't grow because we're cut shorter.
Yes, yes.
And then call that progress. That's what
Yes.
the state calls progress.
Yes, yes, you most likely could have a net loss.
We could have a double loser.
Yeah, this is not a win-win.
They won't improve, but we will suffer.
Yeah, so,
You have to call your state representatives and call your state senators and let them know how you feel.
and that's what we really are out here today for, and that's what we're talking to you, Dean, is what can people do? What's the most important part? And you're saying the most important part, because it's not something we vote on. This is a bill in the House. It's passed the state Senate.
It's passed the Senate, it's in the House for consideration with the Illinois House of Representatives. You need to get in contact with them, Facebook, Twitter, you name it.
Yeah, well, I've got one, Sean Murphy for state Senate, so we've got he's one. Get a hold of Sean and make sure, folks, you know who your state senators are, you know who your representatives are. Go online, get the information, and make sure you get that point across, that you're not looking to vote for them in the next election if they are supporting Senate Bill 16.
And
So,
Governor
remember
Quinn
that.
as well can veto it.
Yes, yes. So that's who we're behind. We're behind the defeat of Senate Bill 16, because if you said so eloquently at first, there is no room for Robin Hood legislation.
No.
There just isn't. So Dean, I want to thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
You're always the most distinguished gentleman in the room, and here you are again setting
That's
the
not
pace.
good news.
Yes, well, here you are.
Thank you.
That's okay. Dean, thanks for being here. I'm Dan McMillan, and we'll be right back here for the Village of Orland Park. Hello, Orland Park. I'm Dan McMillan, here for the Village of Orland Park TV. And we have a very special, distinguished guest here tonight at Sandburg High School. We had an event that appears to have really hit a hot button with everybody, and the consensus is that it's been a very successful 2 events. And trying to explain us what the events are about and what we're doing here is State Senator Mr. Bill Cunningham. Bill, thanks for coming out tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, and with Orland Park TV. You did a great job inside explaining this Senate Bill 16 to everybody.
Right.
So, since you saw it from the beginning, can you give the viewers an idea of what is Senate Bill 16, and then we'll talk about a few more things as to what the genesis was and why it's even here. But what is Senate Bill 16?
Well, it's an effort to reformulate the way Illinois funds education, how we pass on monies to local school districts. The current formula has been in place for a long time, since the 90s, and most people agree it doesn't work very well. So we had a downstate senator by the name of Andy Menard come up with a new formula with the idea that the basic idea that more state funding would go to districts that have a higher level of need, they have pockets of poverty, and some of that state funding that was normally going to affluent districts would go away from them and flow to the poorer districts. The problem is, when you look at the details and you crunch the numbers, things don't quite work out that way. There are a number of districts, including districts in our area, that get hurt and get hurt hard, lose a lot of funding, even though they have pockets of poverty and pockets of English language learners in their district. So that's why I voted against the measure last May when it was up in Springfield. It was bad for Orland Park, bad for the southwest suburbs.
Yes.
So I voted no, but it did pass, and now it's pending in the House.
So it did pass. You voted against it. Everyone, he did vote against it. It's somebody we talked with Dean Casper just a little while ago, and he termed it Robin Hood legislation.
That's a good way of looking at it. I've used the analogy of robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yes.
Because it's a big new funding formula with no new money going into it.
Yeah.
So the only way it works is to take money from one district and give it to another. And as I've said repeatedly throughout this, we shouldn't be picking winners and losers. There should only be winners when it comes to education
Yes.
funding, or at the very least, districts should be held harmless.
Yes.
No one should lose.
Well, what we talked about was, we've talked a little bit about before, and see what you think about it, is that a village like Orland Park, which has attracted people because of the strength of the community, the economics of the community, and the school itself, appears to be being penalized because of that.
That's right.
And so how do the folks in this area, how do they try to, what is their best way to try to counteract this bill?
Well, exactly what they're doing. We saw here tonight, and we saw last night in Conradi Junior High in Palos Hills, a huge turnout from people from Orland Park, from Palos, from the entire surrounding area who've come out to voice their displeasure with this bill and to pressure their legislators. I've already voted against it. Fran Hurley, the state rep for most of Orland Park, is committed to vote against it, but there are a lot of other House members who are on the fence. So the best thing to do is reach out to them, pressure them, and tell them that this bill is wrong, that they shouldn't be taking from one district and giving to another.
Yes.
And the more we respond to pressure, those of us who serve in the General Assembly,
Yeah.
when we hear from our constituents, we respond. So that's the most important thing that people can do to stop this, is to find out who your representative is. Fran Hurley doesn't represent all of Orland Park, most of it, and the game now is in the House of Representatives. They need to pressure those reps to make sure that they want them to vote no.
What is the best way as a state senator, and so you have people contacting you continuously as their constituents are, what makes what hits home the most in terms of, or what's the best way for folks to get a hold of their state senators?
Well, the best way to get a hold of us is either through email or calling the office. Also, stopping by the office. If someone stops by my office when I'm there, and I have an office in the Orland Hills Village Hall, I meet with them.
Yeah.
But schedule an appointment or stop by. And the most important thing you can do is tell your personal story. Tell your elected representative why you moved to the area you moved to. If it was because of the schools, let them know that. If you've benefited from your schools, if you have a child with special needs who's getting real important care there, let them know about that. We respond, a lot of times we're looking at numbers on a chart, and we kind of get immune to that.
Yeah.
But when we hear personal stories, that's what we react to. So tell your elected representatives your story.
Well, as they say, as the local bank commercial says, everyone's got a story. So tell your story. You can have multiple stories, but as Senator so eloquently put it, please make it. Don't just tell. He would like to get beyond the numbers. He likes to personalize it. Stop by and see him. Right. That's probably the best way that makes the most impact.
That's right.
So but I just want to talk a little bit about the numbers. And as I glanced at the notes here, a district like that encompasses Sandburg, District 230, they're going to lose $7 million.
Right.
$7 million.
Almost all the funding that the district gets now from the state, close to 90% of the funding the district gets from the state, they would lose. And there's only two things that can be done about that. They can lay off teachers, and create larger class size, eliminate programs, or raise property taxes.
Yes.
And we already have a problem here in the state where we rely too much on property taxes.
Yes.
This bill is, in essence, a backdoor property tax hike, and that's why it has to be defeated.
Yes. Okay, so folks, let's work hard to get the word out to your state senator, to your state representative, that you don't want to see Senate Bill 16 passed, and you will remember that next time you go to the polling booth, what happened with their vote for Senate Bill 16. So in a nutshell, what do you what do you see as the global effect of Senate Bill 16, and how do we counteract it?
Well, I think there is some good news right now, if we can end with that.
Yes.
I think that the members of the House are hearing from opposition, they're hearing from people, they can always hear some more, and it seems like now this bill has really been slowed down. The House sponsor is talking about not moving it in its current form, but a phrase we use a lot, even though it seems like it's kind of starting to die, nothing is ever dead in Springfield. It could be revived with another name, it could be revived with a different sponsor, so we have to stay on this. So things are moving in the right direction, the public's involved, they're telling their legislators to vote no, but don't take your foot off the gas.
Very well put. Don't take your foot off the gas, because the worst thing can happen, folks, is to be apathetic and let things just happen. Because when you let things happen, many times it doesn't happen for the better. So, State Senator Bill Cunningham, we want to thank you very much for coming out today. Thanks for the great job you're doing representing the village of Orland Park and the surrounding communities. We look forward to a prosperous and a healthy new year and beyond. So, thank you very much. Hello, Orland Park. We're here today from beautiful Sandburg High School, where we just had an event that appears to really have hit a hot button here in the greater Orland Park area. And here to explain herself as to why we're even here and how it's gotten this far, we have a distinguished guest, State Representative, aspiring to be a senator someday, a federal senator. You never know. Very disagreeable at times, but State Representative Fran Hurley. Thank you, Fran, for being here. Can I call you Fran, or do I call you State Representative?
Fran is fine.
Fran, I'm amazed by, sometimes people, there's this feeling that there's a lot of apathy in the area, and you may get that sometimes, where you worry that people don't participate enough in government, and maybe why you went into state government was to try to make a difference and try to motivate more people to be involved. But we've got we've got something going on here that really appears to have hit a nerve. Senate Bill 16. Can you explain in a nutshell what is Senate Bill 16?
In a very small nutshell, Senate Bill 16 changes the education funding formula for the schools in the state of Illinois. There's winners and losers. And nutshell again, there should be no losers in public education.
Why do you think it happened? And as I read the notes and in here, that District 230 loses $7 million. District 135 loses $5 million, and so on and so forth. This area seems to have taken a disproportionate hit. Why? What's the genesis of it, and why all of a sudden, and maybe it wasn't all of a sudden, maybe it was building over the years, that this bill became to be introduced? And I did look it up, and I even printed it. What it was called, I said, School Funding Reform Act of 2014. What was the impetus behind it?
I can only speak from my perspective. It was introduced into the Senate, and there was, as in the meeting, Christine Radonio, the senator, she said there was 4 different meetings, and then one person drafted the bill, and then it was put on the Senate floor for discussion and vote. In the House, we've had no discussion or vote about Senate Bill 16 whatsoever. So people have said that the funding formula for the state needs to be fixed with mandates and disproportionate amounts, but again, this bill doesn't answer the questions or solve the problems, because it takes away money from our district.
Yeah, I mean, does it seem to, on the face of it, to me, and I could be off base, it appears to penalize the very reason that people have moved to your district, because of the strength of the community, the economics of the community, and the schools
we have
that are here.
Wonderful school districts out here, and the school is fiscally responsible. It's been doing everything right, and it will in this current funding formula, it would lose money.
Yeah.
Which is not fair.
Yeah, and so if it loses $7 million in just this District 230, which encompasses...
67 teachers and
Yeah.
such, yes.
Yeah, and so what we've got here is and somebody else termed it Robin Hood legislation. And yeah, and right before you, Senator Bill Cunningham, he termed it robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what seems to be happening here. And I don't think that we're migrating, some people like to love to throw out the term socialism, that I don't think we're migrating towards that, but that's a bill like this almost appears to push us that way. So how do we counteract it?
By slowing down, by looking, one of the presenters showed the formulas, the actual stack of papers with the formula calculations, which were about a foot tall.
Yeah.
The bill itself was over 400 pages. We need to change it, but it has to be understandable, it has to be equitable, and again, you shouldn't penalize districts for doing what they're doing and providing a great education, and they shouldn't lose money.
Yeah, and it's and also what we've done here too is trying to correlate, which has never been proven. In fact, I think it's proven the other way, that just spending money on a school district does not ensure success.
Correct.
Because I was told that the highest per capita spending per student is done in the Chicago public schools, and their success has to be questioned.
We have some very good success stories in Chicago public schools.
Yes.
But again, the funding formula, it's not equitable, and people are penalized for
Yes. And
for
so,
doing the right thing.
I mean, things like the parent involvement behind the schools is so important. Is as important or more important than just the amount of money that's in the schools.
Parental involvement is important in Pioneer football.
In anything, in Pioneer football. We love that.
In any kind of activity.
Yes, and that's what we want to stress. Parental involvement. For all you parental units out there and children, be nice to your parental units. But I think you just said the word, get involved. So how do your constituents that are watching you out there right now, how do they get in touch with you?
I have two offices, well, really three. One at 10400 Southwestern Avenue, the other one at 3215 West 111th Street, and the other one at 16033 South 94th Avenue. Phone number 773-445-8128 or 708-233-9703. Email repfranhurley@gmail.com. Stop in, write, call, anything. We hopefully I share an office with Bill Cunningham.
You're over at the
Orland Hills.
Yeah, the Orland Hills. Yeah, okay. We'll stop over and see. Maybe we'll have a little coffee.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Yes.
We have three offices, and we try to be as accessible as possible. We go to meetings like this when invited. We knock on doors. We have meet and greets, coffees and conversations. But this meeting tonight was an excellent example of how people can get involved, how they can reach out to their legislator, and how they can be informed. And I encourage everybody to continue that.
I really like. You can almost call this democracy in action. And that's it's great to see. It's really great to see because I worry and I think that people so many times you think there's too much apathy out there, and this really shows
with this
that
issue. There's no apathy.
when you hit an issue and somebody has just a hint that property taxes could go up 20%. And not just once, could keep going up 20% a year. May be exaggerated, but it still means that it's an unfair, and as they say, so many times you'll hear the saying, all politics is local. And this brings it back. And so that's why I think, is what you do is you're so in touch with the area and the constituents. How long have you been in? We're here for Senate Bill 16, but we need to know who's representing us. Can we trust her? So no.
I've been here a year and 10 months.
Have you?
Yes, and the cycle is a 2-year term. So I'm up for a re-election in November 4th.
Oh, you're up. Oh, are you?
Every 2 years. Yes.
Folks, get out there and vote. She does a tremendous job. I've heard so many great things about Fran. I really have. And so keep it up. So it's only a 2-year term? That's short.
It keeps you in touch with the constituents.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and it does. I mean, it does, but it's almost as if then you have to be, on the one hand, you're governing, you're governing as a legislative body, but then you're always running for office. It almost feels that way, but I'm not here to
It's not a
pontificate on
bad
that.
thing
But
because you're out with the residents all the time
Yeah.
and constituents.
yeah,
So
and
that's a good
it's kind of like the way you're in school. If you just worry about learning,
Yeah.
the A's will come. The tests, you'll do well.
Yes.
But if you worry only about how do I do that test, then it makes it much harder. So if you just worry about doing a great
People prep
job,
differently.
yeah.
So worrying about the test might help people.
But if
Better
if
too.
you're out there doing a great job, you don't have to worry about campaigning because that's your campaigning.
Keep it your, yes,
The proof's in the pudding. And she's
is.
doing a great job.
hopefully.
So get a hold of her. You can go on, or we're going to make sure we post this on Orland's Finest. It's up to all her information because we really want to bring democracy to the people, so to speak. I don't know what I'm talking about with that. I'm getting a little out there. Fran,
Thank you.
thank you
Nice to
very
meet you.
much.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Vote no, Senate Bill 16. You're going to make sure, if it ever does come up,
In its
for
current
vote.
form, it's an absolute positive no.
No, it won't come up. We want to thank Fran Hurley, State Representative, for being here tonight. I'm Dan McMillan for Orland Park TV. Thank you. Hello, Orland Park. I'm Dan McMillan for Orland Park TV. And we're here tonight at Sandburg High School in Orland Park for a very special event that just took place that, as I watched it, I said, this is a topic that I haven't seen really bring a community together, and it's such a hot topic. I haven't seen this in so long, but it's great to see democracy in action. Great to see people out here. And we have with us a distinguished guest tonight. He was kind enough to stay in after the presentation, after he was a big part of the presentation, probably the main part of the presentation. And what he can lend so much to it, and he's going to try to educate us now on Senate Bill 16. We have none other than Mr. Joe Lamargo. Joe, great to see you.
Always good to see
have
you,
you
Dan.
here.
You're too kind.
No, I'm not too kind because,
yeah.
as we talked about before, you're wearing a couple different hats here tonight. Well, tonight you're really wearing your hat as president, the school board president of District 135. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And you also, of course, are the public, what do we call it?
Public information officer for the Village of Orland.
Public information officer for the Village of Orland Park. So he does some tremendous job in all of the areas. He stepped in District 135 when they needed really some cohesiveness, somebody to bring it together, and he did it. But he's going to be embarrassed by me saying all of these accolades, and he's saying, just get on with it, get on with it. So we're here tonight talking about Senate Bill
16.
16.
Yes.
And it seems that I can't believe the uprising that it seems to have brought. What is your take on Senate Bill 16?
Well, I mean, it's real simple. It's the Robin Hood effect, and I'm sure you've heard that enough
Yes, I
times
heard
today.
a couple type people have called
Yes,
it Robin
yes,
Hood
as a matter of fact.
legislation.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Senator Bill Cunningham,
Yeah.
who represents a big portion of Orland Park, who voted against Senate Bill 16, which we're very
Yes.
appreciative of, called it the Robin Hood effect himself, which
Yes.
is essentially taking from school districts that may be a little bit more well-to-do and redistributing that wealth down to other districts that might not be as financially sound.
Yes, but and also what I see it's not just that well-to-do factor, but it's also, you guys have worked very hard to be fiscally responsible and fund the pensions, fund the overall educational process, and now it's as if you had some backroom dealings, and all of a sudden, under the premise that, the system is broken, we need to fix it. And so they go into the back room, they do this, and all of a sudden, District 135 is going to lose, under this present legislation, $5 million.
That's right.
District 230 will lose $7 million.
Yes.
So the disproportionate effect on this, to this area, is really a cause for action. And so when the folks that are out there that weren't here tonight, and they keep hearing this Senate Bill 16, and they understand how it has to be counteracted, or your property tax bills could conceivably go up 20% in a year, which is, which we already most of us already feel like we pay so much in property taxes, to go up another 20% and then more up after that. What can they do to help counteract this Robin Hood effect?
Right. Well, we have more serious problem than just what you had just mentioned, because we are limited to the amount that we can increase property taxes by a thing called PTEL. And that's set by the state statute. So we can only go as high as the consumer price index or inflation. Same thing.
Yes.
And so even if we were to raise our rate to the maximum level, we would still be millions of dollars off. As a matter of fact, our property tax revenue that we collect really just covers our salaries and benefits.
Yeah.
So we're looking at $5 million that we have to cut someplace.
Yeah.
And our largest expenditure, other than salaries and benefits, are really in our purchase services division. And that's a little bit over $8 million. But included in that $8 million is $5 million just for transportation for the students.
Yes.
And by state statute, we're mandated to provide that service. So we can't cut that. So we look at what are things that we can cut. So prior to Senate Bill 16 even coming to light, we have, since I've been board president, we've done a lot of cost-saving measures. So we've looked at all of our service contracts to see if we can't renegotiate them and go out to bid again and get lower prices on that.
Yes.
We've collaborated with School District 146 by sharing some food services, which of course gave us a little bit of savings with the food services. We put out on we hired a grant writer as a consultant. So we pay them X amount of dollars an hour, not to exceed X amount of dollars a year. So for example, $30,000 for a grant writer. However, because he gets paid an hourly rate, we only pay him for what he bills us for. So last year, he brought in over $150,000 worth of grants, and he only billed us for $8,000. So we're right ahead. We've looked at phone lines that maybe we weren't looking at before, that we weren't using before.
Yeah.
Found out we were paying for phone lines that we weren't using. We did an audit on that, and it turned out that about 75 lines, saving us about $100,000 a year annually for not utilizing these phone lines or not paying for these phone lines anymore. Another thing that we're doing right now is that we're reinstating the foundation that was once part of Orland School District 135.
Yeah.
We're reestablishing that, and that's going to work as collecting, different revenues, because we can't keep going back to the taxpayers.
No.
As I've said from time and time again, I've never voted for a levy increase, and as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm with the district, I'm not going to vote for a levy increase. And we can't go back to the taxpayers because the well's dry.
Yeah.
You can't, and as you'd mentioned before, I mean, we're beat 65% of your tax bill comes to the school district. Out of all the school districts, which would be Moraine Valley Community College, School District 230 and 135, School District 135 gets the majority of that, gets over half of that. We get close to 40% of that 65%. So with Senate Bill 16, we're looking at all our costs. We're looking at different ways that it's not affecting students or programs or teachers or classroom sizes, all that stuff, but there's only so much. I mean, and what we're saving is, I don't want to say that $100,000 savings, $100,000 here or $100,000, it all helps out.
Yeah, no,
but at
no,
the end of the day, because we're limited by how much we can raise property taxes by, and we're still going to have this huge shortfall, the only place that we might have to cut our salaries. And right now, the $5 million equates to about 67 teachers.
So you could lose 67
We could
teachers
lose
with Senate
67
Bill.
yeah, because of Senate Bill 16.
There goes, and that could be a very major effect in the quality of education.
Absolutely, because you're talking larger classrooms.
Yeah.
You can be talking about cutting programs.
Yeah, cutting programs,
I mean, there's a lot of
absolutely.
things that are going. I mean, fortunately, we have two representatives that have really served us well. We have State Senator Bill Cunningham, as
Yes.
I mentioned,
Yes.
who's constant. Myself and our superintendent meet with him and Representative Fran Hurley
Yeah.
on a regular basis, saying, listen, if there's something coming across your desk, let us know if you feel that it's going to impact, the school district one way or another.
Yeah.
We also monitor that as well. I mean, we're constantly looking to see, what bills are coming across our desks and everything. And so we have this very open line of communication, which I think is very beneficial to us. But again, I mean, the Senate Bill 16, I mean, I announced some fairly good news. I mean, originally this bill was supposed to come up for a vote during the veto session.
Yeah.
We got news today, according to the Daily Herald, that they're going to postpone it until the spring session.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You know, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, as long as that bill is alive,
Yeah, it's,
you know, until it's dead, until we can kill it, it's a threat to our district, to our students.
yeah.
That-
Being fiscally responsible, now you're
Exactly,
cutting
yes.
into the bone here.
Yeah. So, yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, so what we're doing is, you know, we're utilizing our dollars smart.
Yeah.
We're investing in our students. We're investing in our teachers. We just, for the longest time, there was no one-on-one technology. This past year, we gave one-on-one technology to every single student in that district. It's a more efficient way to teach.
Yeah.
The kids are getting excited about it. Just being that interactive with the technology and the teachers. You know, I talk to the teachers quite often. They tell us, they're like, this level. I have 4 children. I have 2 that are in school district 135, and they come home and they're like, we love it.
Yeah.
I have a son that's in school district 230,
Yeah.
Sandbrook High School, as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And I've got one that's coming through the ranks. She's 3. She's in preschool,
so she'll
but,
be-
you know, so I'm vested
Yeah.
in this district.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the decisions that I'm making, you know, I'm not just making for myself and my children, but also for
Yeah,
for the community
Community
as a
in
whole.
general.
Because
No.
I always say, you know, we live in a great community. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm the public information officer for the
Yes,
village.
you
So
are.
we have a phenomenal community. We have a outstanding police department. We have wonderful recreation programs. We have a good administration. I mean, we just have really good services in Village of Orland Park.
Yeah.
With saying that, I always say that the school is the cornerstone of
No doubt
every
about it.
single
That's-
community.
Yeah.
It's a cornerstone, and so that's what's really important. We have to make sure that we keep our school district as pristine as possible.
Yeah.
Because when I moved to Orland Park, I moved to Orland Park because of the schools.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and as a bonus, I got the great police department and, you know, the great recreation programs and the
Yes.
pool and all that other stuff that comes along with it. But really, when I was looking at a community to move my children into or raise my children and my family, it was Orland Park because of the schools.
Yeah, well, how many times people advertise their, you know, when they list their house, one of the things they say, Sandbrook School District, District 135, you know, it's a selling point.
Absolutely.
So what people have, we've moved here, we've built up the community to be economically strong and a strong community with a high, you know, very, very strong standards, and it's as if we're being penalized now that we have to, now we have to say, oh, wait, you can't do this now. You have to reallocate, and we're going to take it away from you and put it over here. And so that seems to be the basis of the legislation.
Absolutely.
And-
And I'm all about equality
Yeah.
for education. I'm all about equality for education. I think everybody should have the funding that they need in order to educate, you know, the students in the community. I think that just makes for a better community, it makes for a better state, it makes for a better country
Yeah.
when the students are educated and really getting involved with school.
Yes.
With saying that, what they're trying to do is level the playing field. So taking money from one district and giving it to another one is not leveling that playing field. All you're doing is bringing a high-performing district down,
Yes.
as opposed to bringing a lower-performing district up, which is, in reality, what you should be doing.
Yeah.
There are so many flaws in this bill. You know, one of the speakers said today that one of the districts is capped at their taxes, they've got a high poverty level, and they're considered a losing district, meaning that more money is being removed from their district. It's absolutely
Shows the real
ridiculous.
flaws.
There are some districts that are financially sound that the formula is saying they should get more money. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of follow the methodology of how they're even calculating this. There's so many flaws in there. I will go back to 135. we're fiscally sound.
Yeah.
We've got a healthy reserve. The board just passed, one of my key initiatives was passing a fund balance policy.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that we weren't hoarding money, and I also wanted to make sure that we weren't overspending it where we kept going to the taxpayers. By having a fund balance policy, it makes us accountable for how we're spending our dollars. And we are, right now, we're fiscally sound. If Senate Bill 16 does not exist. If Senate Bill 16 does get passed in its current form,
Yes.
within 2 years, we'll be below our fund balance policy. Within about 4 years, our reserve will be gone. And so if we're not able to borrow money, or I'm sorry, if we're not able to raise taxes, okay, if we've made the cuts that we can, the only option is borrowing.
Yeah.
And so when you start taking on more debt,
Oh, yeah. And
your
yeah.
bond rating starts going down.
Yes.
Which means that you start having a higher interest rate. It costs more money to borrow the money.
And you're mortgaging your future.
And you're mortgaging your future.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, instead of having a handful of underfunded schools, now you've got, you've levered the playing field, because
Yeah.
now everybody's on.
Yeah.
The other point, too, is that this is just a Band-Aid. This is just a Band-Aid, the way that this current bill is written. Meaning that they're going to take $5 million, they're going to give it to a lower funding, or spread it out amongst some other underfunded schools.
Yes.
Okay. They're not throwing any additional new revenue towards those underfunded schools, so they're just going to get that. What happens when, through the years, as CPI is increased and inflation has increased, your salaries are increasing and all that? Within a matter of 3 years, they're going to be in the same predicament they are in today.
Yeah. Poor planning.
Because they still can't, they're still landlocked,
Yeah.
okay? They still have rising expenses, and there's no new revenue to cover those costs. So they're going to be in the same position.
Yeah.
So now you're going to be even in a worse state that you were presently.
Yeah. Understood.
So
Understood.
my thought is, yes, we can absolutely level the playing field. My thought is, all these new revenues with the proposed extension of the income tax, you can take a portion of those revenues and give them to the underfunding schools. Those are new revenues.
Yes.
Don't hurt the districts that are doing well.
Yes, to get out of this Robin Hood mentality.
Absolutely,
So I think that's what sums it up.
Yeah.
We need to defeat
Yeah.
Senate Bill 16.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will add one thing, too.
Yes, sir.
There's no accountability for how people can spend this money either.
That's...
So, which is a really bad thing.
Yeah.
Because you're just throwing money at these districts. There's no criteria. You're not saying, hey, this new money has to be earmarked for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, for education.
It's not.
Yeah.
The thing is, just because this is possibly being postponed until the spring session, don't stop
Yeah.
contacting your representatives. Go to our website.
Yes.
We've got a complete report on how the bill has started, and basically the lineage of the bill. We have who voted for, how people voted. We have where it's sitting right now, who the current sponsors are in the House. We have, for all the feeder districts, we actually identified all their representatives. So literally, all you have to do is go on our website, print out the letter, sign the letter, and mail the letter. That's
There
it.
you go. So-
Simple as that.
Get to District 135 website, which we all can Google, D135. Get to that website, get the information, it's all there, and make it very clear to your state senator, to your state representative, that they will not have your vote if they vote in favor of Senate Bill 16. So, Joe Lamargo, communication professional, the expert, you do a great job with the Village of Orland Park. You do a great job with District 135. It's fiscally responsible. We want to thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Joe Lamargo. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you. I'm Dan McMillan, here for District 135, of course, with Joe Lamargo, and Village of Orland Park TV. Thank you.